Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again, and it's February. You know what that means. Starter Deck 11 Film Uta is going to be coming out, and I am stoked for this. I think that this leader is going to be fantastic. It is going to bring a revitalization of green into the meta a little bit. I mean, the leader ability is cracked alone, but not only that, we got some absolutely amazing new cards. Granted, this starter deck, if you are not aware, is mainly a big reprint of OPO2 film type cards, but we also have like some new additions as far as events, as well as a new Uta blocker that are just going to be fantastic for this list, as well as potential future staples in maybe green or multicolored green decks in the future. So I really like the idea of this, using that film engine and just a ton of draw power. It is absolutely fantastic, and yeah, I'm really excited for some of the events coming up. I want to say before we get into this, I am not 100% sure just because of the wording of the Bandai announcement, but it does seem as though either some shops or all shops will not be getting the promo packs that were listed on the website. And they did say that the packs will be sent out to the shops at the very beginning of March. So getting those promo packs, I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out. You might have to talk to your local game store as far as, you know, participation, pricing and stuff like that is concerned for the event. But if you guys want to let me know, maybe if you have some future, like, you know, maybe more details, you can let me know in the comments below. But as far as I'm aware, it looks as though some shops, I think, got the packs and others didn't. So I guess we're just going to have to wait until the beginning of March. But I think the biggest thing that everyone was more concerned about was whether we were getting the 8 cards that it listed on the website in the one pack for participating, or if we're getting 1 card out of the potential 8 inside of the pack. So that's another thing that it just seemed really unclear how they worded it, whether it was going to be all 8 cards or not. So yet again, if you do know anything, leave it in the comments below, and that way myself as well as others can read. But just to my understanding, I'm not entirely sure. But getting into the starter deck 11, like I said, a lot of reprints from OPO2 coming, like all of those film cards that you got in OPO2, a lot of great green staples in there for the film engine, but we do have a lot of new cards as well. Getting obviously the leader, which is amazing, but the super rare Uta blocker, absolutely love the idea of this card. I think it's fantastic. 3-cost card does make it really useful in a lot of this deck, and you'll see in the future when we go over some of those cards. But 3-cost card with 4k power, having 1k counter as well, just being a blocker. And at the end of the turn, you can trash an event card and then restand a film type character. So it's pretty amazing that you can attack with your 7-cost Luffy blocker and then be able to restand it very easily just by pitching an event card from hand. New Genesis, this is the first SR event that I'm aware of in the game. I think this is an unreal card. Like, it's basically a free cycle. You know, to look at the top 3 of your deck, find a film type card other than New Genesis itself, add it to your hand, and then you're returning the rest to the bottom and setting 1 Dawn as active. So basically it's a free card. You do not have to spend a Dawn. You get that Dawn back as active, and yeah, you get to potentially look for a film type card. So you can cycle out cards in your hand. You can potentially keep it in hand for using the Uta blocker effect at the end of your turn. I think this is just it's a great searcher to start the match off, and then also, you know, has some usefulness at the end of the game when you know you're looking for certain pieces. Backlight though is awesome. This card is awesome. Now, it's too awesome that they had to leader lock it to Uta, because otherwise it would be so broken. But still, very, very good card. 2-cost event for being able to choose one of the following. You get to rest an opponent's 5-cost or less, or you get to KO an opponent's 5-cost or less that's rested. Dang. I mean, I was testing some of this deck list out, and this card is like what allows you to kind of go for that, you know, go for game at the end of the matches. You're resting some of the blockers. You're potentially KOing, you know, cards in the future that, you know, you're like, oh, I can't really deal with this. I can't dedicate a swing, but I can use backlight to get rid of it. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Now, notably, these two events, New Genesis and Backlight, do not have any triggers. So, as much as I do think that they are fantastic, there's just so much like capability there. Not having the triggers isn't really that impactful, but it is unfortunate. It just feels like sometimes you're like, ah, man, I wish these cards, you know, just had something that if I got out life, you know, like activate main or something. But I do think that Backlight would be a little too strong if that was the case. New Genesis, I think, would be fine. But yeah, I think Backlight would be pretty crazy. But also, I'm Invincible being one of the new cards. This is going to be setting your leader, Uta, as active. And this does have a trigger giving one of your leader or character cards plus 1,000 for the turn. It can be potentially useful in trigger, but more than likely not. This is going to be one of those closing out the game cards right here. Also, just being able to swing twice, 12k twice into maybe a rested character is really nice. You know, say there's something you really have to get off the board. This is going to be, you know, a fantastic way to do so. It also kind of holds your opponent accountable. They have to respect the fact that you could have this in hand, and you know, they have to think, okay, how many swings am I looking at? Oh, I have to potentially counter one more swing as well because they could have I'm Invincible in hand. So really like the card. At first I didn't think it was going to be that great, but after some playtesting, that card is awesome. It's so awesome. It's also very easily pitchable through the Uta effect for the blocker to restand something. So absolutely incredible. But what is the idea of the deck? The idea of the deck is a lot of draw power. You know, from the different lists that I was testing out and trying, it seems as though you're going to be running somewhere close to 36 to 42 film type cards in the deck. So New Genesis, Uta, as well as Nami are going to be able to search all of those cards, and the chances of missing are very, very low. I put down here at the very bottom that there is a 72 to 40 or 84% chance to hit a search with the leader effect. So, I mean, your odds are, you know, 3 out of 4, basically, you're going to be hitting something. And if you don't, you just put it to the bottom of your deck. But you do have to reveal that one card. So when you do reveal that, your opponent is getting some information as to what you are putting into your hand. However, it can be a lot to try and keep up with. I realized after playing a couple of mirror matches that trying to keep up with every single card that my opponent got, either through leader effect, New Genesis, Nami, it was extremely tough. So I don't think that even revealing some of those cards really gives, you know, too much information away, because unless you got a photographic memory, it's tough to keep up with. It's a lot. But the draw power and the draw engine of this deck is really what keeps you alive. You don't tend to run a lot of 2k counters in this list, so it is going to be very reliant on you being able to see some of those pieces and necessary cards. And one of the biggest things that keep you from maybe dumping all the cards in your hand, you know, to protect yourself, is the fact that you have some absolutely fantastic blockers in this list. The 7-cost Luffy obviously being one of the staples of OPO2 in the, you know, green film package, but now it's going to be very, very useful in this. And this is a card, you know, this is a rare that will be reprinted into the starter deck 11. So you don't have to worry about getting your hands on this if you're picking up some of those starter decks. Realistically, there's very few cards that you'd have to get outside of what comes in starter deck 11 to build this deck. It seems as though it's mostly just like the super rare Nami that you're going to need, as well as some of the potential other top-end cards that you can play in this list, like 10-cost Dofi and 8-cost Kid. But yeah, these blockers go extra hard, and both of them being film, you know, easily searchable. Luffy being your combo piece to get out a lot of, you know, potential attackers on the board, or potential defense, playing the Uta from Luffy as well. It's just a lot of great combo power, really good blocks overall. Being able to attack with Luffy constantly makes this deck a lot more aggressive as well. And as far as, you know, defending yourself not only from attacks using blockers, you also do have to have the 2k counters. Now, this is where the deck does kind of, you can see that it has its problems occasionally. There is only one searchable 2k counter, and that's going to be Tony Chopper. Izo is, you know, I run a 4 of in this list just because I do think that Izo is probably one of the best 2k counters in green at the moment. It just has a lot of versatility, and it's just a great card overall. Stat line's not bad also, and it's a pretty cheap card to pick up simply because it was reprinted through a lot of the tournament packs. But, you know, because, you know, OPO1 cards aren't always easy to find, but since they had a lot of those tournament pack reprints, very easy, cheap card to get. And if you wanted to add more than the 8 2Ks, like more than 4 Choppers, 4 Izos, you have the option of Carrot. I think realistically, Carrot's not ever really going to get played, but there are options that you could be playing Carrot, running potentially Paradise Waterfall or Punk Gibson in this list. Being able to set up a Dawn as active at the end of your turn can be extremely useful. But I like Carrot just as the 9th and 10th 2k counter. Just being able to have just that extra 2k counter in the list. A lot of the times it will get bottom decked, but it gives you a potential draw into some more counter power for you as well. But going back to the Luffy as well, we have the combo cards in the list. This is really your engine. This is what gets the deck going. You're able to go so wide on the board with this. You'll have 4 to 5 characters, you know, pretty much the entire game, depending on how you're playing it out. But Luffy and Brook, you know, Brook gets you started early by putting down a Nami or an Usopp onto the board, maybe even a blocker Uta to get set up for Luffy the following turn. And Luffy being able to play into Brook, which then can combo into any of those pieces I just mentioned. I mean, these combos really make dealing with this deck a nuisance, because there's just so much on the board ready to attack you, ready to go for board, ready to go for face. It's a lot, and if you start to think about how much draw power this deck has, then it's going to constantly just be putting these cards out over and over and over. You know, your opponent playing Uta might have 3 cards in hand, and then after, you know, one turn they'll be at 6, 7 cards in hand, you know, with a couple of Nami swings, leader swing, Neon Genesis. It's extremely powerful, and being able to deal with this is going to be pretty tough for some decks. I think that this is going to play extremely well into yellow. I think that it will definitely have its struggles into Sakazuki, but I think if you're able to go wide enough early enough, and your opponent, you know, might not see the Lucci, it's going to be a very, very fun list to play. Also, a lot of the cost of these cards is very awkward for some Sakazuki combos. Like, they would have to have, you know, potentially 2 Great Eruptions and a Lucci on their turn 3 in order to be able to get rid of a lot of stuff. So I think that this is going to be extremely fun to play in the current meta as well. And introducing some of the top end, these are options. I don't think that they are, I don't think you have to have both of these necessarily, but they are options. I've seen some people run strictly Doflamingo. I've seen some people strictly run Usa's Captain Kidd. I kind of like both of them. I think both of them just do an excellent job into certain matchups. So I do think that Doflamingo is going to go exceptionally hard into a lot of the yellow matches, and it does a fantastic job in the mirror as well. Usa's Captain Kidd, though, also fantastic into the mirror, but it is a nuisance that a lot of low to the ground decks have a tough time dealing with. And if they don't have the removal, or, you know, potentially can get through, you know, a lot of the blockers that you already have on field defending Kidd, it's so tough to deal with. And Kidd also, just being able to activate the main on the turn that you play it and play down a 3-cost Uta blocker, just makes this an exceptional card. It makes it extremely difficult to deal with, depending on what your opponent's board state is or their potential combos with leader. But I really like both of these. They're great options for playing some of that top end and kind of, you know, testing where the list, you know, really thrives. But going into some of the events that we have, obviously I talked about New Genesis, Backlight, and I'm Invincible. These are the new events, and you will be running these in the list. New Genesis is a no-brainer, running 4 of these just because you're able to search the top 5, or excuse me, top 3, and, you know, recycle your hand is unreal. It's actually unreal. It does so much work. Backlight just being extremely strong for this Uta leader right here, and then Invincible being able to go for game at the very end of the tournament, or end of the match. The potential events, though, I did put up here is, and I do think that there are other options, but I do think that these are probably the more potentially more popular events that we might see in certain lists. Is going to be the 0-cost event from OP05, just being able to trash a card without counter, you know, to gain a plus 3k. There are a lot of cards in this list that don't have counter. You do lack on 2ks, so it can be tricky sometimes. I think Paradise Waterfall also has, you know, a say in potentially being a really good card in the list. Like I said, you know, you don't have to run Carrot in order to run Paradise Waterfall, but Carrot can just get you back that extra Dawn for this event. But it also simultaneously, you don't have to trash an event at the end of your turn to reactivate something. You know, using the Uta blocker effect, you could just leave one Dawn active and then use Uta blocker to reactivate one Luffy, and now Paradise Waterfall reactivates the second Luffy. So there's a lot of combinations, a lot of strong defense, and the draw power as well just goes extra hard. But in the starter deck Uta events that will be played out throughout February, we do have some of these promo cards. I think these are the cards that people are most excited for. I personally haven't been testing any of these just because I know that I probably won't have them until March. So until March, I'm probably not going to test them very much. If you're able to get your hands on them, I think that some of these are incredible and really, really interesting. I think that there's going to be a lot of play testing and a lot of deck building to figure out, you know, what ratios work best with these. How do some of these cards, you know, synchronize with the rest of the list? And starting us off, though, we got the 2-cost event Where the Wind Blows, and that's if your leader is Uta, set all of your film type cards as active at the end of this turn. Crazy. Actually crazy. So you can just swing everything, all of your blockers, and then bam, set everything as active. I mean, it's pretty wild. The ultimate offense defense right there. And then trigger being able to set all of your film type characters as active as well. I don't know, maybe the trigger, I guess I just haven't really been thinking of a scenario where the trigger would be fantastic, but maybe it might. Maybe they're just swinging 5 and you're resting all your Luffys, and then they swing another 5 and you get this out of trigger, reactivate your Luffys, and now they have no way to get through. I'm not entirely sure, but it is a very interesting card. We also have Fleeting Lullaby, 3-cost event. This is going to be if your leader is Uta, up to 2 of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 4 or less will not become active in your opponent's next refresh phase. This card is sick. This is a 3-cost Doflamingo on 4-cost or less characters. Insane. I think that this card is definitely very, very interesting to test out in the list. And yeah, I don't know. That's a promo that I could definitely see being up there in price, or, you know, sought after value wise, because it's very good. It's very cool. I like that a lot. And then Top Musica. This one's weird. This one's weird. I like it, but I also don't know how I feel about it. 2-cost main, rest one of your Uta cards, and then rest up to 2 of your opponent's Dawn cards. I guess this is a pretty sick tech piece for playing against, you know, leaders that have a lot of those 2-cost counter events. But it's very, very interesting. I don't know. I don't really see this being that useful, but I could totally be wrong. Yet again, this is all just speculation. I think it'll be interesting to see where that card kind of goes. And then this one also kind of piques my interest, but it is kind of like a backhanded sort of thing, so I like the idea though. So we got the 2-cost event, the World's Continuation. It's going to be counter if your leader is Uta. You may return any number of characters on your field to your hand, and then up to one of your leader or character cards gains plus 2,000 for every returned character. So say you return 2, you get plus 4,000. Say you return 3, you get plus 6,000. I like it, but I also hate it. You know, it's I feel like once there are some maybe more useful 2K counter film cards, I think this is going to be a really, really good promo, because just being able to play maybe more useful 2K counters and then returning that character, like for example in starter deck 12 there is the Mihawk character, and that just being able to play that, gain the value of that card, and then bounce it back to hand is absolutely fantastic. So I think there is a world where this card is exceptional, but it's really going to boil down to future cards, because at the moment I just don't think it's, I don't know, I don't think it's all that. It's okay. Yeah, but just to finish us off, this was a deck list that I was trying out and I had some success with it. I think it was really fun playing this deck list, and just being able to, like, the sheer amount of draw power was absolutely incredible. Like, just there's so much you can do with this deck. And I find the film engine to be very fun. You guys know that I used to play Green Purple Dofi a lot. I think that this will be, you know, a fun new film engine type that everybody can kind of get excited about, because one, who doesn't love Uta? And then two, you know, these film cards, they're strong, man. They're extremely strong. Yeah. But I was running pretty much 4-ofs across the board, except for some 3-ofs, and the 3-ofs being Eustace Captain Kidd, Doflamingo for the top end, and then trying out the events, I think it's Backlight and I'm Invincible at 3, and I had Carrot at 2, just for some extra 2K counters. I do think that Carrot can be replaced, obviously, with there's a Law card. I just don't think Law is really necessary until maybe starter deck 12, where you do get that Mihawk 2K counter that allows you to cycle out a lot of cards. So Law isn't bad, but it just doesn't feel like it gains a lot of value in this deck. I don't, yet again, don't think it's terrible. It's just not exactly what I was trying to do with the list. And I know a lot of people are going to run it, and I don't blame them. But to me personally, I like what I have going on here. It's very fun. I believe I run 38 film cards, so there is like a 76% chance of finding a card off the top of leader effect. You hardly ever whiff with Nami and New Genesis. If you do, it's like a sign by the gods that you just weren't meant to get something. But overall, I really am excited for Starter Deck 10, or excuse me, Starter Deck 11 Uta. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts though. Are you going to be playing this leader? Are you going to be playing in some of the events? Let me know, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. I just wanted to go over some of what I think is going to be really interesting about this leader in the future. And yeah, I'm excited to play in some of these events these upcoming weeks. So until the next one, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.